Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hey, welcome back to the Stepmom Side podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, and by the time this comes out, we will be in the second full week of the new year. How is it going? Have you had a fresh restart? Have you had like a little reset? Have you, fallen off like your intentions for the year? Like what's going on? I feel like I'm still kind of like playing catch up. Like I feel like I'm coming out of the weeds on that. But yeah, when it came to like taking down our Christmas decor, I was like, this has to go, like bring it all down. And now here we are. So let's get into today's topic. Like, tell me if this sounds familiar. You've got your coffee, you've got your water, your tea, whatever it is that you drink, and you're trying to be patient. You're parenting, if that's what you call it at your house, but you're like navigating through the chaos. And suddenly your stepkid drops a bomb and says, I miss my mom. Or the slightly more painful remix, which is like one of these, like, my mom doesn't make me do this. My mom does it better. Or my mom lets me do this. And just like that, your blood pressure skyrockets, your inner voice screams, are you kidding me right now? And the urge to just pack up a bag and move to a cabin in the woods gets really strong. Or you're going to come join us on Stepmom Island, like somewhere down in like warm waters and always sunshine. So today we're going to dive into that moment, the I miss my mom moment, and how to respond when it feels like it's meant to hurt you. This one's messy, it's emotional, but it's also really, really normal. And here's why we're going to dive into this. Recently, somebody inside the Stepmom Side Community, one of our members, had shared this. My 8-year-old soon-to-be stepson started sharing, I miss my mom. It feels like he's saying this because he's getting consequences for the way things are happening at our house. I'm going to leave out what's happening. And at his mom's, he can do anything that he wants. And I said, okay. Then the next morning, he said it again, and I told him to talk to his dad about that. I just wanted to set a boundary because I felt like he was using it to hurt me. He never mentioned it to his dad, of course. Now I feel mad, but I also feel like I'm pulling away. It doesn't feel good. And you know what? That post, I was like, yeah, I'm nodding along because I've absolutely been there. And it's not just because of the words, I miss my mom, but it's about the weight behind them. The sting, the feeling that you're being compared or worse, rejected. And it's kind of like that you'll never, ever fit in. So when you hear that as a stepmom, it really does hit deep. You might instantly go from calm, rational, cool and collected, or how does it go? Calm, cool, and collected to emotional landmine and 0 to 60, 0 to 100 in 0.02 seconds, right? Because let's be real. If that kid said, I miss my friends, or I miss grandma, or I miss my cousins, or I miss my neighbors, or whatever, you'd be like, oh, that's sweet. But when it's, I miss my mom, it hits different. It feels personal. It feels like a job that says, you're not her, you'll never be her, and maybe you're doing this wrong, or you are doing this wrong. And I'm going to tell you this. It's okay to admit that it hurts. You're not heartless for wanting to protect yourself from that, right? Because everyone has their own emotional bandwidth, and you're human too. You can only take on so much. But here's the truth. It's not really about you. It's about them, their emotions, their discomfort, their lack of regulation. Kids, especially stepkids, say things like this for a lot of reasons. So let's break down a few of them. One, the emotional displacement. They're mad that they got a consequence, but they don't have the tools to say, I'm upset I got in trouble. So instead they reach for something that hurts you. This is how it feels, right? And if you get into trouble for something or somebody calls you out on something, it doesn't feel good. And, sometimes we just go a little into ourselves or are a little recluse and you just say nothing. But kids don't always do that. Sometimes they just lash out. Again, that emotional regulation is not in full effect, but also if they know that it's going to hurt you because potentially the other house has said things, Bam, there you go. Like, let's say something to like hurt Alicia, right? Number 2, they're testing their connection with you. They want to know if you'll still be kind to them when it stings, if they can be honest or manipulative, and you'll still love them. I think this one is the hardest because obviously kids naturally test consequences. They want to know, like, are you going to stay here? Like, is our connection stable? Is it safe? Is it, are you a safe person that I keep coming to? And as a step parent, we don't get that unconditional love that their parents get. And for better or worse, like, we don't always naturally unconditionally love our stepkids. It's also a learned thing for us too, right? And it's this weird conundrum of like, love them like your own, but also like no one's making our stepkids love us like their own, like not that they should, because we're not their own and they're not our own. So there's this weird like dynamic at play of like, you have to love them like they're yours. But then they go and say something like this and you're like, actually, you know what? I don't really love you right now. And maybe you don't, or maybe you're like, you know what? I love them, but I really don't like them right now. Okay, that's fine. Totally relatable, totally normal. So they're just testing that connection. Like, are you going to be kind? Are you going to flip out? Like, and if it's a manipulation thing, like, oh, if I say I miss my mom, or, she does this better or whatever, and that sparks some sort of response from her, that's like the stepmom or you, like that's something that is going to be used again and again and again. Number 3, you're a safe target. They feel safer directing their feelings at you than their dad or their other parent. Why? Because they know that you're emotionally steady to handle it. They know that you're emotionally steady enough. There we go. And I was like, that sounds weird. Enough to handle it. Yay, good for us, right? And a lot of times I see that the stepmoms like that come into my realm that I coach, that are in the community, that are DMing me, are the stepmoms that I've put in so much work. And it's like, why am I getting this? And it's just that, like, they're testing that connection, but then also they know that you have structure, that you've got routine, you've got boundaries, you've got expectations. And so they're like, okay, I know that if I flip out and say something crazy to Alicia, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, she's going to say, it's all right. Like, I still love you, whatever. But like, they know that you are good. They know that you're a safe person. And that sucks to hear, but a lot of times that's exactly what's happening. Number 4, they actually do miss her. Even if mom's house is chaos, even if mom's inconsistent, she's still mom. And I think this is the hardest thing to get through, like, our brains as a stepmom, like, hey, pot, kettle here. Kids are wired to want connection with their parents. Like, even if in our eyes, she's a terrible mom, she's, a terrible example, she's a terrible role model, she, does all of the worst things, that's still your stepkid's gold standard. And I think that's really hard to recognize because we're like, are you kidding me? She's a terrible parent. Like, how could she? Oh my gosh. That's their gold standard. That's their gold star. That's who it is. If you've got kids of your own, like, that, like, your kids look up to you. They favor you over anyone. Same thing with her. So yes, sometimes it's manipulative, but sometimes it's just human. And the more we can see this information as data, the less we can take it as a personal attack. I always say, like, get curious about like what's going on, and then you can kind of figure out like, okay, how do we address this? So let's now talk about the landmines here. Here's what not to do when your stepkid drops the I miss my mom grenade. Don't say, then go live with her. You'll think it, you'll feel it, but don't say it. And maybe you have said it. And maybe you've like screamed at your partner, like, then go let them live with her, or, whatever, like in one of your not so shiny moments. Like, those feelings also totally normal, totally valid, because again, how much can you take before you just snap, right? Like, I am not a perfect stepmom either. Like, I also have a limit. My fuse used to be extremely short. Now it's a lot longer, and I just simmer and then explode, and rather than just like exploding right away. And there are definitely signs. Yeah, but we're not going to emotionally react. We're going to take a deep breath, maybe walk away, maybe get some fresh air or do something different, but we're not going to say, then go live with her. although you might be screaming that in your head. If you're inside the Stepmom Side community, this is a great time to like hop into the community and be like, oh my gosh, guess what happened? What I want to do is scream, go live with her at them. Don't roll your eyes or shut it down with, we're not talking about her. That just makes mom talk taboo, and it comes back louder. Because again, remember we were talking about like the emotional like manipulation thing a little bit ago. That is where this comes into play. Like, oh, it's almost like a bruise. Like, this is a bruise. It hurts. Let me just keep pushing it for you to make sure that it hurts. Let me still see if this is something that like gets under your skin, or this is something that like gets that reaction from you. Like, oh, you don't want me to talk about her because that pisses you off? Perfect. Thank you. Right? Like, you're giving away like all of this ammo. You're giving away that power of like, oh, this used to frustrate me when my husband would say this, like, you give away your power. And I'm like, no, I don't. And then like looking back, I can absolutely be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I definitely gave away my power a lot. But this is your reminder that the mom talk, making it taboo, makes it come back louder and louder and louder and louder. And we'll get into that in like a little bit, but don't shut that down, as hard as it is. Also, over analyzing every time her name comes up, not cool. Sometimes kids mention people simply because that person exists. Sometimes they had like a fleeting moment. Like, how many times have you been going throughout your day and I'm going to like just speak from like personal experience. I've like thought about somebody randomly that like passed away, or somebody you haven't seen in years or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah. And it just like comes out. That could be the situation with the kids, but also like it's their mom. It's somebody that they probably think about a lot or often or whatever. Sometimes it just comes up. Sometimes it just comes out. Like it's not necessarily just to get you. So please don't overanalyze every single time her name comes up. And it'll get a lot easier because you'll get a lot stronger. But you can't control what the kids say, but you can control how much power it has over you. I remember I was saying how my husband was like, you always give away your power. And I was like, no, I don't. And then I realized like, yeah, I do. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. What actually works? What can we do instead? So I've told you what not to do, and maybe you're like, oh, damn it. Like, I definitely do those things. Listen, my friend, like, hello, same here. Absolutely have done every single one of those things. So let's get into the good stuff. Here's what actually works. Step number 1, okay, just stay with me here because this one is a bit of a doozy. Like, I know that you're not going to like it as soon as I tell you, but again, hang out with me here. Step number 1, lean into it. Lean into it. And I know you're probably like, what? Okay, you don't have to like it. You can just breathe and say something like, I can understand that. You miss her sometimes. I miss my mom too. Boom. Validation. There's no argument. There's no energy drain. There's none of this like back and forth of just whatever. But again, breathe. Like, take a minute and be like, breathe, and just say something simple like, I can understand that. You miss her sometimes. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Now, in your head, you're going to be like overanalyzing and all of the things. Again, that's where the Stepmom Side community comes in. But just breathe, lean into it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you let them keep talking about it, it takes away that tabooness. And this sounds counterproductive, right? This sounds counterintuitive. You're like, why would I keep talking to them about somebody that I can't stand? Because what we're doing is we're taking away that, oh, we can't talk to Alicia about our mom because it pisses her off, and that's how we get a reaction. No, what the kids come to realize is there is no reaction for them to get out of you. Now, having said that, we have to be very mindful because kids are sleuths. Like, they can pick up on literally anything that you think that they are not picking up on. Like, even if you're pretending to like them, like whoever it is, the kids can like see it and absolutely know that that's not the case. So this is going to be one of those things that you have to practice. You'll get better at it, I promise. I got better at it, you'll get better at it too. Step number 2, get curious and not defensive. Again, this is something like you can lean into. Like, what do you miss about her? Sometimes they'll say something like, she lets me play video games. Cool. You and I both know that's not about mom being better. That's about rules being different. Right? And there's all the other things too. You're like, that doesn't make her a better mom. Like, she's a terrible mom because she lets him play video games until 2:00 in the morning or whatever, right? But what do you miss about them? And sometimes kids just need the outlet. Like sometimes we feel weird. Like they feel weird too. And they're just like, oh, I need to like get this off my chest. And then I'm fine. How many times have you gone to a friend and been like, "Ugh," like word vomit all of the things. And then you're like, oh, okay, I feel a lot better now. Sometimes that's how the kids feel too. It would be ideal if they're, saying something to your partner about this, but sometimes like you're the person that's there and you're the person that gets all of it. So remember, it's not necessarily about mom being better. It's because she lets them play video games or lets them stay on their phone or whatever. It's just about the rules being different. It has nothing to do with her being better than you. Step number 3, redirection. After a few minutes of listening, pivot. Oh my gosh, please pivot like out of the conversation. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Hey, can you help me set the table? You acknowledged it, right? Like, hey, what do you miss about her? Great. And you can ask a follow-up question or two. Again, this will get easier, I promise. If you need help like role-playing through this, like come inside the Stepmom Side community. We can role-play it on office hours and we can chat about it. It gets a lot easier. We can get phrases so you can, do it and not be completely weird about it. But then change the conversation. You don't have to be like, yeah, your mom's great or whatever. You don't have to, lie to them, but you can just be like, yeah, that makes sense that you would miss her. Hey, can you help me set the table? Can you help me with dishes? Can you help me, clean up the living room or whatever it is? Can you go outside and you want to go play ball or you want to go play catch or you want to go for a walk or whatever? Just redirect the conversation. So you acknowledged it without making it weird. And I think that's the biggest thing there. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of self-control to not be like, oh my God, this is insane. And then step number 4, final step. You don't need to react because every time you don't react, it loses power. Remember we had talked about this? Like every time you don't react, them bringing up their mom loses power. So if they were trying to get that rise out of you and it doesn't work, eventually they stop using it, right? Like if you keep going, it's kind of like setting boundaries. You're setting a boundary without being like, stop talking to me about your mom, right? Or if every time they want an extra piece of candy and they're like, hey, Alicia, can I have a piece of candy? And every single time I say no, eventually they're going to be like, oh, she never gives us an additional piece of candy. Like I'm just going to stop asking, right? So you're setting a boundary without explicitly saying that. And this is one of those situations where you don't need to say to anyone, I'm setting this boundary. I don't want to hear about their mom. Definitely don't say it to the kid. I would caution you on saying it to your partner. I would highly recommend you not say it to your partner. But if you don't react, it loses power. They see that there's not this rise out of you and they're like, oh yeah, this is something that we can use to get her. No. So let's move on to being real. Because sometimes it is meant to hurt you, especially if the kid knows that you're enforcing a rule that doesn't exist at mom's house, right? Like the video game thing or maybe staying up all night or just eating crap food. In those moments, boundaries, yeah, those are your best friends. You can calmly say, it's okay to miss your mom. That's completely normal. But I'm not the right person to talk to you if you're upset about the consequences. That's between you and your dad or you and your parent. Whether it's your mom, grandma, whatever. It's, what did I say, grandma? That was dumb. But it's okay. Again, let me just say this to you again if you're taking notes. You can calmly say to them, it's okay to miss your mom. Like, that's completely normal. But I'm not the right person to talk to if you're upset about these consequences. That's between you and insert parent. Your dad, your mom, whoever. Here's what's the most important part here. You're not shutting down emotions. You're redirecting manipulation, right? So it's okay for you to miss your parent. You're validating that. You're not shutting that down. And then you're even saying, that's completely normal. But that manipulation part, that's where you're saying, but I'm not the right person to talk to if you're upset about consequences. So you're calling out what that is if you actually think that you are being manipulated. Wow, words are apparently hard. So if it is meant to hurt you and you come out and say, I'm not the right person to talk to if you're upset about consequences, then the kid's like, ah, damn it. She sees through this BS. Yeah, it's not my first rodeo. Yeah, I definitely see through that BS. So then you just move on. There's no lecture. There's no emotional tug of war. And if they continue on, you can just say that. Again, I'm not the right person to talk to if you're upset about consequences. Or I'm not the right person to talk to about this. You can go talk to insert whoever. So I used to be that stepmom who tried to shut down all of the mom talk. Like any of it that came out, I'd be like, oh my God, it made me feel weird. It made me feel awkward. It made me, because it felt like she was everywhere. Like I live in their house. Now I've lived here longer, so it's my house. But I moved into their house. I am younger. We basically had, it felt like hourly communication. That's not what it was, but daily communication, every other day communication. I struggled trying to find my role. I struggled with figuring out like who I was supposed to be, what I could or couldn't say, what I could and couldn't do. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear about her too, like in my house. Like this is supposed to be my safe space. Like help me out, help, right? I didn't want to hear about how she decorated. I've talked about this before on the podcast. Like when we were painting like the living room, we had picked out a different color. And so if you're new here, hey, welcome. I'm Alicia. I'm a stepmom coach, but also like I've been through it. My stepson had gone back to his mom and said, hey, he probably just said, Alicia's painting the living room, meaning like, Alicia's taking over your house and she's painting things. And she told me that she told him, great, it's her house now. She can do whatever she wants. And I was like, thank you. You know what? That support really means a lot. Everything in our situation, for the most part, is pretty amicable. So yeah, I didn't want to hear how she decorated or that, he was going back and telling her whatever. I didn't want to hear what she cooked or, hey, my stepdaughter's been like, oh yeah, my mom always makes my favorite meal. It's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, awesome. I've literally never made that meal. I don't want to hear what she bought. I don't want to hear like how amazing she was or how like many awesome memories they have. At the beginning, these are things that I didn't. Now I don't care. Like if they're like, oh yeah, my mom decorated this way or she cooked this or she bought that or, she's amazing because whatever. It doesn't sting like it used to because every mention then felt like a reminder that I was second or that I wasn't going to fit in. And then it felt like I could never find where I fit in because there was always this constant shadow of like, remember you weren't here first. Remember there's somebody else that's better than you. Remember. And it complete mindfuck, man. Like, So here's what I'm going to tell you. When I started leaning in and saying things like, oh yeah, that's cool she does that. Or, oh wow, that's great. The energy completely shifted. Was that what I wanted to be saying? No, abso-freaking-lutely not. Not at all. Say yes, absolutely. Because I wanted things to change. I didn't want to be held captive in this tower and like everyone was just doing whatever it was and I was just like watching my life unfold and like I can't believe that this is happening. So I just started to lean in. It feels uncomfortable, it feels awkward, it feels really weird because you're like, this is going to make it worse. And initially it might make it worse, so to speak, but then people just it just dies out. I know that sounds really crazy, but my stepkids realized that talking about their mom wasn't off limits. And eventually it just stopped being a thing. Now they bring her up occasionally and it doesn't even register as threatening. It's just part of life. Like obviously they have a mom. Obviously my husband was married before. That's why I'm a stepmom, right? Like that's how I got into the situation. This is why I have a podcast. This is why I coach. This is why I have a community. But now I'm like, okay, completely confident in my role. Like I don't shy away now when people are like, how many kids do you have? I'm like, I have a daughter and I have 2 stepkids that are older. And they're like, well, like how much older? And I'm like out of the house older, right? It doesn't, and if people make a weird face or they act weird, I don't care. And enough people know me now that like, they know that I've got stepkids, so whatever. But yeah, it's not an issue if my stepkids bring her up. Is it my favorite topic? No. But I also don't want them to feel like, oh, I have like this secret life with them or with my mom and stepdad that like I don't talk to my dad and stepmom about, right? Like I don't want that there to be that thing. And then depending on how it goes, sometimes it can be like alienating and all the things. And I just try not to tread in that pool. That's not really, really fun. It just gets murky and it's deep and it is like quicksand. No thanks. So now when they bring her up, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't register as threatening. That's when I knew I'd stopped competing and started connecting with them. And as much as I always say, like, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. It's not a competition. It feels like that when you're like, don't talk to me about this. Don't talk to me about that. But it was more about just connecting with them in a way that like, we're just connecting. So here is your reminder, my friend. When your stepkid says, I miss my mom, it's not a rejection. It is not a rejection. It's a reflection. It reflects their confusion, their emotional immaturity. And that's not in a bad way, right? Like, they're kids. Their brains aren't completely developed. I'm not saying that your stepkids are, immature little brats. They might be, but like, their emotional maturity isn't completely developed. Their normal longing for consistency, like, that's huge, right? Like, it would be so much easier to live at one house. I have a girl that used to babysit for us, and she's now in college, and she goes to college locally. And last summer I was talking to her about being at college, and I was like, how was your first year? Did you love it? And she was like, it was great, Alicia. All of my stuff was in one place. I wasn't going back and forth on weekends trying to get my stuff, or like, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. Everything was in one place. That's the first time in 15 years that I've had everything in one place. And I was like, wow, that is, you don't think about things like that. So again, it reflects their confusion, their emotional maturity, and their normal longing for consistency. And when you can respond calmly, you're not only protecting your peace, right? Because that's what we're doing here. We're protecting your peace. You're showing them what emotional safety looks like. Like, it's okay. Like, we can have hard conversations. I'm here for you regardless of who you're going to talk about or what's going on. Like, I'm here for you. So even if they don't see it now, they'll remember how you handled the hard stuff. Even if on the inside you're like totally dying. So if this podcast episode hits home, come join us inside the Stepmom Side Community. It's where we talk about this kind of real life stuff. When it hurts, when you're unsure, and when you want to handle things better, but also want to scream into a pillow. You'll find stepmoms who get it, tools to help you feel grounded, and the validation you didn't even realize you needed. You don't have to carry the I miss my mom moments alone. Come join us, and I will chat with you next week. Episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crosco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side Community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.